One.
Shavua Tov, Ha'Gudvach. As you may have noticed in the gazillion mitzvahs in today's parsha, it talks about sensitivity to the poor, tzedakah, being gracious and good about doing it. I just want to share a story that I heard this week. It didn't happen this week, it happened fairly recently. There was a rabbi in Deal, New Jersey, who had learned in Baltimore, in a yeshiva in Baltimore, when he was young. And he had family in New York, and every year before Rosh Hashanah, he and his wife would visit the cemetery where her parents were buried. One year, it was 3 or 4 weeks, right around now, before Rosh Hashanah, they were visiting in New York, and as they headed back to New Jersey, they were in Staten Island. His wife said, "Why don't we stop and visit my parents today? And that way there'll be less of a rush before Rosh Hashanah." He agreed. They went to the cemetery. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, very empty, and they went to the gravesite and they recited the various prayers that you make. As they got ready to leave, a lonely hearse showed up with 1 or 2 cars, and it was a funeral needing a minyan, and he was asked to wait. So he joined the minyan. Kaddish was said, and right after Kaddish, the children of the deceased started walking towards their car. And he said, "Excuse me, we have to bury him," because the dirt had not yet been placed on top of the casket, the coffin. And basically, they said, "If you're interested, have a good time." And they left. He stood there shocked. And they said, "You know what? The caretaker of the cemetery can do it with his backhoe. Let him just shovel the dirt in top." Well, the rabbi turns to his wife and he says, "This is a mes mitzvah. This is a real opportunity to show respect to one who has passed away. That's not by having it done by a backhoe or by you do it by hand." He said, took off his hat and jacket, grabbed a shovel, and spent an hour and a half filling up and burying with some respect and proper way this person. He finished his job, sweating, and he decided to look and see what's even the name of the person, the little marker you put down. And he sees a name, it means nothing to him, gets back in his car with his wife and returns to New Jersey. On the way, he's just curious, who is this person, this unknown individual whose family left him there, and I ended up burying him properly. Who is he? So he begins to call around and ask his friends, "Did you ever hear of this and this name?" And no one had a clue. Back in Baltimore, one of the main fundraisers who traveled the entire America to raise funds for the yeshiva knew everyone in America. So the rabbi from New Jersey calls up the rabbi in Baltimore and says, "Maybe you heard this name. Maybe you know who this is." He says, "Let me get back to you. Let me check." Calls him back an hour later and says, "This person you're talking about, you know him and I know him." The rabbi says, "I know him? How do I know him?" So the rabbi from Baltimore said, his name is Rabbi Newberger, he said, "When you were 13, 14 years old, your parents sent you from Seattle to come study in our yeshiva in Baltimore. 3 or 4 months after you came, your father lost his job. And he called me up and he said, 'Please send my son back home. I can't afford to pay his tuition. I can't ask you to keep him for free, so send him back home. We'll send him to public school.' Didn't sit well with me, and I decided to try to see if I could find a donor who would pay your tuition till your parents perhaps could. And this gentleman that you buried today paid for your tuition for your 3 years here in our yeshiva." As you can understand how shaken in a good way the rabbi was. Here he thought he's doing a favor to an anonymous person, and really this person's tzedakah paid off, that he received his own kosher, perfectly fine burial done with a respectful way. So bottom line is, when we do a favor to other people, but we do a favor to ourselves as well. Let's get out there and prepare for Rosh Hashanah by giving and doing as many acts of kindness as we can. Have a great week.